Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing, with your hosts Glenn Thayer and the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young.
Welcome back, folks, to another episode. It is 2015, and Tom and I are back with another list of marketing trends for this year. So as a lot of you know that have been following us for the last few years, last almost 8-9 years, I don't know, it's been a while. We have done these pretty much every year, what's coming up for the next year, and the predictions have been pretty right on. You can go back and look at the old episodes and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. But for this year, there's a lot of stuff going on that can contribute to your marketing success for 2015. So Tom, let's kick it off. Let's talk about strategic web marketing. What can we expect for this year?
Well, I think this is going to be the year of process for web marketing for most companies, which what I mean by that is, we've talked about our 4-step process for a long time. But I really think this is going to be the year where companies start to look at web marketing not as something they just have to do and get done and get in place, but that they have to have a plan or a process for it. And I really think that's going to be driven by the fact that so many people now are going to be on websites, and especially on websites from mobile devices. Those numbers are increasing dramatically. In fact, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen many client websites go from having maybe 20% of their visits from mobile to over 50% of their visits now from mobile. So mobile devices are going to play an even bigger role. And I think that's going to really force business owners and business leaders to come back and say, we need a process for this. We can't just wing it anymore. Half our traffic's coming from mobile devices. What does that mean for us? I think that's going to be a huge trend. And I think that one of the biggest trends for 2015 is responsive design websites, which we've talked a lot about mobile. We've talked a lot about the importance of mobile and how it's coming with the iPad and now with the larger iPhones and everything. But this really is going to be the year of no difference being seen in websites, no matter what screen you're on. And in fact, just in the last couple months, Google has made it very clear that your website content has to be the same for every device it's being searched on. We had an internet glitch. I think we're back now.
I think we're back, yes.
Okay. And what I was talking about was this concept of responsive design websites. And I think that it's going to be critical actually to make Google happy to have a responsive design website, because as I said, the guidelines for Google now is that your website content has to be consistent on any screen size. So the days of having a mobile website are pretty much done. And I think what you're going to see more and more is the concept of a website that is responsive. So it'll look pretty much the same on any screen, and it'll adapt to that screen. The content will stay the same. And then there'll be specialty apps for more and more use with mobile. And so people that are 100% mobile will be looking for the app to use on their phone if they're a loyal customer or follower of your business. And then people that are just browsing and doing basic content research will want to make sure that your content adapts to their phone, and they'll read it right on their phone.
There's another interesting part on that to kind of piggyback on that as far as apps or event apps. People go to conferences all the time, and most conferences these days are having apps built for the conference. And what I'm seeing is for additional functionality, there are also other website providers that allow the app designer to go outside of it and use a mobile website within the app and pull it in. So you may want functionality. If you need additional functionality and you have meetings or events or conferences, you can actually take that out and use it as a mobile website, and it is responsive design. So whether you're using it on a laptop or you're using it on a tablet or a phone, it all looks the same, and that functionality is still the same within the app. So there's some really cool things that are happening.
And I think that that's going to be real important for 2015. And then the strategic side of this is going to be more important than ever, because you can't just have an app that is just, bells and whistles and it looks cool and does little somersaults or whatever. It's got to be tied to the strategic vision of the business, and it's got to have a purpose for the app. I think what we saw in the last couple of years is a lot of companies said, download our app. It's really cool. And then you download the app and look at it and you realize, well, there's nothing here of substance. Somebody thought this was really cool to put this together, but why do I need this? So you got to answer the question, why does somebody need that app? And how would they use the app differently from the website? I can give you an example. One of the clients that we work with has camps for kids. And so kids drive the purchasing process for this because they want to go to the camp. And then parents evaluate the camps and say, well, okay, we'll send our kids there. It's worth the money. Right. And so you really need two types of websites. You need your website for the parents to do their research, whether they do it on their phone or their computer. And then you need an app for the kids to go and play and experience the camp in ways that they would when they were there on their phone. So that's a good example of a strategic use of mobile marketing with an app and with the website. I think we're going to see that more and more in 2015.
Now, do you think people are going to be ditching apps if it doesn't make sense? Because I know as a user being online, like you said, people say, download our app. I'm going to go, why do I need the app? What am I going to get in the app that's different from the website when if I download an app, it's going to take space on my phone and it's not going to do much for me? That's always the big question is, can you get the same information and get the same bang for your buck with a responsive design website, or even a sub site, if you will, a separate site? Can you get more bang for your buck there than bringing in an app development team?
Well, it's all strategic, and it's all based on what your business needs to do. For example, let's say that you are a building company of some kind, and as you do construction or building, you have templates for design specifications. And in those templates, there's a calculator that's needed. That calculator might be an app, right? And one of the things that can happen if you have an app is that and people use it, is you can send updates through that app that are really marketing updates for you. So if you come back and you think, well, how are people going to use our website? How would they use tools on our website on their phone? Then that starts to answer the questions of the app. So you don't build an app just to have another marketing tool or way to get in front of people. That's a secondary benefit. The primary benefit is, how can we make life easy and convenient for our target market by having them download an app? And what people will do is they'll download the app if they're excited about your business. They'll use the app initially, and then if it's good, they'll keep it and use it. If it doesn't impress them on the first usage, they'll probably just leave it on their phone until they clean house one day and delete it, which is what people tend to do. Most people on their phones have dozens of apps, and most of those apps they don't use. They stay on their phone. And then if you send them irritating little updates, then they'll eventually delete the app. So it comes back to strategy. And one of the things that's going to happen this year it's going to be a huge event in web marketing is the iWatch. So the iWatch coming out is probably the biggest event we've had since the introduction of the iPhone and the iPad. Now, there's still a lot of skeptics out there that think the iWatch won't go anywhere, won't be popular, won't do anything. I think the iWatch could really be a huge player in web marketing. And it's yet to be seen if people will actually try to read content on their watch, but it's certainly going to be used for notifications, for reminders, for brief messages, for notices that emails are coming in. And I do think that people will be checking their email on their watch. I think they'll be checking text messages, and it's just something that's coming. And I think that you have to be ready for the impact of the iWatch on your business.
Well, especially if they have text to voice, from being able to read your email and have your email read to you. That would be something that would be beneficial too. So we'll have to see when iWatch comes out.
And in the apps, how can you develop an iWatch app? It may be as simple as having your contact information available for the iWatch so people can easily get a hold of you. And the whole concept of wearables, we've talked about this before. The Google Glass, which actually did not do well and did not move beyond prototype. We'll have to see what happens to the iWatch. I think that, from what I've seen from Apple, it's a huge rollout. They're making tens of millions of these products. I think they're going to sell, and I think they're going to be something that can change the industry. And I think that the iWatch, what you might see with the iWatch is that the screen sizes will start to change. Some people will actually wear a larger screen right on their wrist. And so, they can be doing a whole host of things and be totally mobile, but have access to the internet and have access to information.
Well, speaking of having access to information, let's talk about Google and SEO for a minute. Where is that heading?
Well, one of the things that I've done in my career is try to understand what is important to Google. And one of the things to think about with Google is that if people stopped using Google, Google would be out of business. And there's nothing preventing people from using Google. They only use Google because it's easy, convenient, trusted, and it produces a search result that makes them happy.
Well, and you don't know if it's still trusted, though, because sites like DuckDuckGo and these other sites that don't track you or give you ads start to come up, and that's becomes their competition now, especially with all the privacy issues.
That's right, and Google definitely is one of the biggest marketing companies in the world. They are trying very hard to get access to your entire information as a consumer, so they can market to you in very smart and effective ways. And so Google fears that. Google fears that people will abandon ship and go somewhere else. And I think that still is a viable threat to Google, and they should be afraid of that. The thing about SEO, so there's two components to SEO. One is, where do people search and how do people get information? In one of our earlier podcasts, we mentioned a trend that people would be searching less on Google. And in fact, they are searching less on Google. They're searching through Facebook and through other sources. They're searching through their trusted website network. Like, for example, they're searching on Amazon for products that they want to buy. And so Google, I think, understands that and is trying to get people back in. The problem with SEO, to the second part of this, is that we try to get websites found in Google search results. And that is becoming more and more difficult every single day. Websites that are entrenched in the Google search results tend to stay there. And it's very hard to get movement one way or the other. And if you can't be found in a first page search for Google or the top 10 results, you're not going to be seen. And so this whole concept of SEO now is a big challenge. And so what's going to happen more and more in 2015 is that people are either going to try AdWords by city, by select demographics, so the click-through charges are less, or they're going to go with a very broad net for SEO, which means they're going to have a lot of blog posts with a lot of keywords and a lot of variations on their keyword themes. Now, if they do this, they can still get traffic in and they still can be successful. But in 2015, it's never been more difficult for someone to launch a new website and really gain a lot of traction and get good search results.
So what are we looking for? Let's go into social media here and bounce into there. What is going to be happening with social media and e-commerce and email marketing? Because I'm starting to see a resurgence in email marketing.
I think email marketing is still a great way to market. It's super cost effective. We've talked about email marketing many times in this podcast, and the fundamentals apply to email marketing is you have the right strategy, you have emails that people want to read and share, and you have a loyal group of followers that can't wait to get your emails or blog posts. That's still very, very important. I think that what's going to change in social media is it's going to be basically more of the same, but more entrenched. And I think that companies are going to view social media as a necessary evil. And I say that because they're going to have a hard time measuring results from social media, but realizing that they have to be there, they have to post, and they have to engage. But they're going to be constantly scratching their heads going, is this doing any good for us? Are we actually seeing sales from this? Well, you're not going to be able to measure those sales. You're just going to need to know that you have to be out there in social media. You have to have a positive brand experience in social media. And you need those links coming back to you for SEO and for content distribution.
It's probably more like your branding campaign is no longer on TV and on billboards. It's now on social media. And the other thing that comes up is I was talking to my kids yesterday, and we were talking about social media, and we brought up Facebook because Facebook is heavily invested in marketing. I mean, it's huge. They want to market to you constantly. Take the information, utilize it to market things back at you. And the reality is, I asked the kids, is like, so how come you don't use Facebook? And the first thing was, well, Facebook is for old people and it's not relevant to us. And I was like, oh,
that's
really?
Right.
And we go back 10 years ago and Facebook was for college students. I mean, that's the only time you could use it. And you're looking at it now and it's like, no, it's like, so what do you use? And they go, we use Instagram and Snapchat. And they carry on.
Yeah, absolutely.
The exact same conversations that happen on Facebook are happening on Instagram. A photo gets posted. They have a conversation on that photo and they move on and it's on to the next. It's not like it stays. It's like, yeah, that photo might be in the photo stream, might get deleted later, but they're on to the next thing. It has nothing to do with marketing. It's like if you market to them, you're irrelevant. So it's a very, very interesting concept, and I'm kind of interested to see where it's going next.
Well, one of the things that has happened in social media that I actually didn't predict is this concept of so many social media sites. I mean, you see websites now with 6, 7, 8 social media links on their homepage, and I'm thinking to myself, really, you have to have that many social media networks? I don't know. I mean, I guess that if it's good for SEO, you'd want to do it. If it's good for content distribution, I just know that social media is seen really as a necessary evil. In fact, it's hard to measure results, but you need to get the content out there and the information out there.
So where are we going with content marketing? I mean, where's that heading? Because we've got that, and obviously with mobile, with responsive design being kind of the king, because mobile websites, in my opinion, are dead. I know anyone that I've been to has been ineffective, and I have to go to full site, and trying to see a full site on my phone is is agitating at best. But so really, where are we going with content marketing, and as it applies to mobile devices?
Well, content marketing is going to continue to grow, and it's really eventually content marketing and marketing itself will be the same thing. But there's still a lot of companies that have a long ways to go with content marketing. Still, from what I can tell, most websites still don't have a blog. And if they do have a blog, it's not an active blog. Mm-hmm. And if they do have an active blog, it tends to be more about self-promotion and kind of trivial things as opposed to real substance and content about the business or the marketplace. So I see continued growth in content marketing. I see continued growth in content marketing for mobile, so people can get information on their phone when they want it, look it up really quick, and make contact. I think that, like I said, mostly, this idea of the fundamentals of website strategy and website processes are going to be more important than ever. And at the heart of that is going to be content marketing.
And speaking of fundamentals, it's always easy to go back, but we have all these podcasts. We've got, I don't know how many hundreds of podcasts that we have going back. But let's face it, to sit and listen to all of those podcasts can be quite time consuming. And there's actually an easier way to get all of that information. And Tom, it's in your new book, Winning the Website War. So that's something, folks, you definitely want to pick up a copy of that. Can you give us like a quick 15-second elevator pitch on that book?
Well, Winning the Website War would be a great jumpstart for 2015. It just came out last month, which was December 2014, and it covers the process that you need. And it covers things like what's important to Google, what do business leaders need to know about web marketing, and it goes into detail in the 4 steps. So absolutely, that would be a great action item for you to get this year started.
So speaking of action items, what are the other action items for our viewers and listeners today?
Well, I think that every year, if you're in marketing or in sales, I think that every year at the beginning of the year, take a look at like this podcast, the trends that are happening, and use that to set priorities for 2015. Think about the Apple iWatch and look at your data and your stats and see what's happening there. There's going to be capabilities for people to pull up websites on the iWatch. So keep an eye on that and see how it impacts your business. At the top of your list for 2015 should be a responsive website design, either through coding, manual coding, or through one of the excellent WordPress templates that are out there that make it so easy for you to do. And then implement the content marketing strategy. And I think most of our listeners have been avoiding that or putting it off because the biggest procrastination around web marketing is writing content. Yeah. It's just hard to find people that like to do that, and we put it off. The good news is there are people out there that are willing to write for you if you give them direction, and what you need to do is set the strategy. And then finally, get a copy of Winning the Website War. You can find it on Amazon and all the major online resellers and booksellers.
Well, thanks so much, Tom. And if you have some other trends that you have seen or what your insights are for 2015, we'd love to hear about that too. You can always shoot us an email at info@intuitivewebsites.com. Thank you so much for joining us again for our podcast.
This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com. If you have a website you would like us to review or an issue you would like to see covered in future podcasts, email us at info@intuitivewebsites.com.